You trust your memory, but should you? Try to remember the last 10 seconds. Are you sure they happened? The gaps in memory. Why we forget time. Memory is fragile. It bends, warps, and sometimes erases moments without us even noticing. You might assume that time flows smoothly, 1 second leading seamlessly into the next. But in reality, your brain edits, cuts, and rearranges time in ways you rarely question. Have you ever driven somewhere and realized you don't remember part of the journey, or struggled to recall the last few moments before falling asleep? These missing fragments of time aren't just forgetfulness. They are evidence of the brain's selective storytelling, its ability to erase time, rewrite history, and leave you with a past that may not be as complete as you think. Memory blackouts. The missing time phenomenon. There are moments in life that vanish entirely from memory. Scientists call these memory blackouts, gaps where your consciousness was active, but your brain simply didn't record the experience. This can happen due to stress, lack of attention, or even just the brain deciding that certain moments aren't worth keeping. Think about how dreams work. You can experience entire lifetimes in your sleep, but as soon as you wake up, they slip through your fingers like sand. Some dreams disappear before you can even recall them, as if they never existed. What if waking life works the same way, only in much smaller, unnoticed fragments? The brain's editing process. Your mind is like a film editor, cutting unnecessary footage to make sense of reality. It removes redundancies, smooths over inconsistencies, and even fills in missing details. Sometimes it does this so well that you never realize entire moments were erased. Imagine standing in a crowded street, listening to the noise around you. If you closed your eyes for 10 seconds and then reopened them, your brain would instantly reconstruct the world, assuming that nothing significant changed. But what if, in that blink of an eye, something had shifted? What if time itself had skipped, and you had no way of knowing? Even now, as you listen, your brain is discarding tiny moments, pauses in speech, lapses in thought, distractions in your environment. The gaps between seconds stretch wider than we assume. Time and perception. The illusion of continuity. We like to believe that we experience life in a continuous, flowing stream. But this is an illusion. Studies show that perception operates in frames, much like a movie. Instead of a seamless reality, we experience discrete moments stitched together by our mind's dot. When you glance at a clock, you might think you see the second hand move smoothly, but try staring at it for a moment. Sometimes, the first second seems to last longer than the rest. This is called the stopped clock illusion, a trick of the mind where your brain fills in the gap before registering movement. If your brain can distort time this easily, what else is it altering? Are you experiencing everything you think you are? What if there are seconds or even minutes of your life that simply didn't happen? Not because they were boring, but because your brain decided they weren't necessary to remember. Has time ever felt like it jumped forward, leaving you confused about how you got from one moment to the next? Maybe you were scrolling through your phone only to look up and realize minutes had passed. Maybe you were lost in thought, only to snap back to the present, unsure of what just happened. These are moments when time slips through the cracks, unnoticed, unrecorded, forgotten. And if your memory is missing pieces, how can you ever be sure how much time you've truly lived? A thought to sleep on. If the brain can erase time without you noticing, how do you know how much of your past actually existed? Theories of lost time. Did it ever exist? The concept of lost time has always fascinated us. Have you ever looked at the clock, and in a flash, hours have passed, yet you can't remember what you were doing? Where did that time go? Did it ever exist at all? One possible explanation is that our brains simply filter out unimportant moments, prioritizing only what we deem worthy of memory. The events we forget are not necessarily lost. They were just never stored. In this sense, lost time isn't about time vanishing. It's about how we process and remember it. But what if it's more than just memory? What if time itself isn't the linear flow we experience? Some believe time is a complex, layered phenomenon, one that exists beyond our understanding. Could time be fragmented, existing in ways we cannot perceive? Perhaps in some alternate dimension, moments slip between timelines. If we can't fully grasp time, could some moments escape our perception entirely? This would explain why time sometimes feels like it's gone, even though it technically hasn't passed in the way we understand. Another theory suggests time might not be lost, but distorted. People have reported experiences where they feel as though they've jumped through time, an entire moment gone, only to appear somewhere else. These time slips may occur during periods of intense stress or focus, hinting that our emotional state could impact how we perceive time. It suggests that time could not only be nonlinear, but also malleable, slipping through our consciousness as we interact with the world. So, time isn't disappearing. It's simply being neglected, lost to the clutter of thoughts and memories that didn't make it through the mental filter. There quotes also a more existential theory that ties into the idea of our relationship with time. Could it be that we aren't meant to perceive every moment in its entirety? Maybe, in the grand scheme of things, there are certain moments that are simply not meant to be understood or remembered. If time is a construct, then perhaps there's an intentional gap, allowing us to focus only on what's necessary for our survival or well-being, leaving the rest as background noise. But what about those moments when you're certain that time has vanished, yet there's no clear explanation? Could it be that there's something we don't understand? What if lost time is not about memory or perception, but about forces beyond us? Could external factors, like dimensions or unknown elements, influence how we experience time? If our reality can be altered by unseen forces, could time itself be manipulated in ways we can't see? Some theorists even suggest that these lapses in time are part of the natural cycle of existence. Could it be that in order for the universe to maintain balance, certain moments must simply be erased from our consciousness? If we could remember every second of every day, would we even be able to cope with the sheer weight of existence? Perhaps losing these moments is a way for our minds to protect themselves, providing space to experience life in more manageable, digestible chunks. On a more philosophical note, the concept of lost time could also suggest that time itself is a human construct, something we've created to make sense of our existence. If time were truly absolute, would we ever lose it? Or is the feeling of lost time merely a reflection of how we perceive the passage of life? This raises the question: if time is not linear, how do we truly know if it's even being lost? Could we be merely misinterpreting our own experiences, shaping them to fit within the framework of our own understanding? In the end, these questions bring us to an unsettling thought. Maybe lost time isn't really lost at all. Maybe it's just the natural limit of our understanding of time, memory, and reality itself. If we can lose time so easily, then it suggests that time may be just as elusive as our grasp on reality. Time might be more complex than we think, and the moments we consider lost may actually be a reminder that there's more to existence than what we perceive. Have you ever experienced a moment where time just seemed to slip away? What do you think causes these gaps? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Historical time glitches. Moments that vanished. Throughout history, there are strange instances where time itself seems to have gone awry. Moments, events, or even entire periods in history that seem to have vanished. What if these glitches in time aren't just coincidences, but a clue that our understanding of history might be flawed? One of the most intriguing examples of this is the phantom time hypothesis, which suggests that some portions of history were fabricated or erased. Specifically, it proposes that around 297 years were added to the calendar between 614 and 911 AD, and that this period of time might not have ever really existed. Could history be hiding an entire chunk of time, or perhaps reshaping it for reasons we don't understand? Additionally, consider the eerie disappearance of people and civilizations that never seem to leave a trace. The lost colony of Roanoke, for example, vanished in the late 1500s with no explanation other than the word Croatoan carved into a tree. What happened to them? Were they simply erased from history due to a mysterious event? There are many such cases throughout history where people, towns, and even ships disappeared without a single clue. Could these disappearances be evidence of some sort of time anomaly, where entire events or societies vanish, as if time itself has somehow erased them? Even stranger are the stories of time travelers and those who claim to have experienced moments outside of regular time. Some report jumping through time or witnessing events out of sync with history. Are these experiences simply stories, or could they be glimpses of real glitches in time moments when the flow of time shifts in a way we don't fully comprehend? The idea of historical time glitches brings forth the possibility that time isn't a straight line after all. Instead, it might be a flexible, fluctuating force that sometimes falters or even rewrites its thought. Some scholars believe that these anomalies could be the result of incomplete records or lost documentation. Ancient texts, often the only evidence of past events, may have been misinterpreted, or in some cases, completely destroyed. In this case, the glitches in history might not be intentional, but the result of human error, war, or neglect. What if entire civilizations were forgotten, not because they disappeared, but because we simply lost track of them? Could this be why we sometimes find traces of ancient technologies and ideas that seem way ahead of their time? There's also the curious case of time distortions in modern-day events. For instance, there are many stories of people who experience déjà vu, or suddenly feel like they've lived a moment before. Some speculate that these might be brief, localized glitches in time. Could such phenomena be part of a larger pattern, one that hints at the true nature of time itself? It's possible that we live in a world where the flow of time is much more fluid than we understand, and where moments can slip through the cracks of our awareness. History, as we know it, might not be as solid as we think. From missing centuries to vanishing civilizations and mysterious disappearances, it seems that time holds more secrets than we can fully grasp. Could there be other moments in history that have simply been lost or forgotten, hidden in the gaps of time? And if so, what does that mean for our understanding of the world and our place within it? What do you think about these historical anomalies? Are these time glitches just coincidences, or could they suggest something deeper? Do you believe there's more to history than we've been taught? The science of temporal blind spots. Imagine trying to remember the exact moment when you fell asleep. Or what about the last few minutes before you lost track of time? It can feel as if time has a way of slipping through your fingers, especially in those in-between moments. This phenomenon is often referred to as a temporal blind spot, a gap in our perception of time where certain moments seem to vanish without a trace. But what if there's more to these blind spots than mere forgetfulness? The science behind temporal blind spots is rooted in how our brains process time. Our perception of time is not as continuous as we might believe. Instead, our brains tend to organize our experiences into discrete chunks, leaving out certain moments in between. These gaps aren't necessarily the result of memory failure. They are part of how our minds simplify complex experiences. But why do we have these gaps? And what do they reveal about the way we experience time? One theory suggests that our brain doesn't store every detail of our experience because it would be overwhelmed with data. Instead, it focuses on the moments that are most relevant or emotionally significant, leaving the mundane or less interesting moments behind. This could be why we often find it hard to recall exactly how we got from one moment to the next, particularly when we're not paying close attention. Time, in this sense, is processed like a movie with cutscenes that jump over certain moments, creating gaps in our perception. Interestingly, these blind spots can also be linked to the way our brains interpret the passage of time. Studies have shown that our perception of time can stretch or contract based on our emotional state. For example, when we're bored or not engaged with what's happening, time seems to drag on. But when we're focused or engaged in an activity, time flies by. This fluctuation in our perception can create the illusion that time has disappeared in certain moments. It's not that time didn't happen, but that we weren't paying attention, or our minds processed it in a way that didn't register thought. Another fascinating aspect of temporal blind spots is how they relate to our sense of identity. Our sense of self is closely tied to our perception of time. We define ourselves by our memories and the timeline of events that led to who we are today. But what happens when time doesn't appear to follow a linear path? Could these temporal blind spots be disrupting our sense of continuity? If we're unable to fully recall certain moments, does it mean that part of our identity is missing? Could this explain why some people struggle with memory or feel disconnected from their past? Furthermore, these gaps in time may have psychological implications. Some studies suggest that individuals who experience frequent temporal blind spots, such as during episodes of dissociation or trauma, may have difficulty integrating their experiences into a coherent sense of self. In this context, these missing moments could be the brain's way of protecting itself from overwhelming experiences, essentially erasing or hiding parts of time to prevent emotional harm. Yet, even with these gaps, our brains are incredibly adept at filling in the blanks. The phenomenon of false memories is a prime example. Our brain will often invent details to complete the timeline, constructing memories that feel real but are not entirely accurate. This further highlights the malleability of our perception of time and the fluidity with which we experience it. The science of temporal blind spots ultimately forces us to reconsider how we experience time. It suggests that time might not be as solid and linear as we think. Instead, it may be a series of fragmented subjective moments, shaped by both our biology and psychology. Our brains, constantly working to make sense of the world, might not be as reliable when it comes to recording time as we would like to believe. Do you often find yourself with missing moments or gaps in time that you can't explain? How do you think these temporal blind spots affect our perception of reality? Subscribe to my channel for new philosophical videos. Could we be living in lost time right now? What if the time we think we're living in is actually lost? Could it be that we're experiencing moments that, in reality, never happened at all? The idea of lost time extends beyond just those forgotten moments we can't recall. It suggests that time itself, as we perceive it, may be fundamentally unreliable, leaving us to wonder, are we truly living in the present, or are we trapped in a version of time that is slipping away from us? To explore this idea, we need to think about how we perceive time. Most of us go about our daily lives in a linear fashion, constantly moving from one moment to the next. But our perception of time can be altered by stress, boredom, or intense focus. Time can stretch or contract based on how engaged we are with our surroundings. This means that the present moment can feel different depending on our mental state, and some moments might seem to vanish entirely. This raises the question, if our perception of time is so malleable, how can we be sure that what we're experiencing right now is real? This idea ties into the concept of lost time in a more philosophical sense. If our minds are so adept at filling in gaps and distorting our experience of time, how can we be certain that the time we spend living is truly ours? It's almost as if the moments we think we're living in are just fleeting fragments of something larger, something we might never fully grasp. Perhaps we're experiencing a version of reality where time itself has slipped through the cracks, and we're just living in the aftermath of moments that no longer exist. The concept of lost time is also linked to memory. As we've seen earlier, our brains don't record every moment we experience. Instead, they focus on the highlights, filling in the blanks where necessary. So, when we look back at our lives, the timeline often feels disjointed, with large gaps of time missing. Could it be that these gaps aren't just a result of bad memory, but are a reflection of time that was never properly recorded? If our minds can't hold on to everything, maybe that means the time we've lived is not fully ours to remember. Could we be living in a version of time that, in some sense, is lost forever? There's also the idea that what we think of as the present may not be the present at all. Some theories suggest that we are always living in the past, as our brains take time to process and interpret the world around us. This could mean that the moment you're experiencing right now has already passed, and you're simply catching up with it. This idea, if true, would suggest that time is constantly slipping away from us, and we may never truly be able to experience the now as it's happening. If we're always lagging behind reality, then perhaps the time we're experiencing is, in fact, lost. Another intriguing possibility is the idea that we're living in a simulation. Some theories suggest that our entire reality could be an artificial construct, with time itself being a simulated experience. If this is the case, then the concept of lost time could take on a new meaning. What if the moments we think we're living in are not even real, but are simply programmed simulations? In this context, lost time wouldn't be a matter of memory or perception, but a result of the artificial nature of our reality. These ideas all point to a disconcerting possibility, that we might not be living in the time we think we are. Time, as we understand it, could be an illusion, and the moments we think we're experiencing could be far more fleeting than we realize. Could we be living in lost time right now, unaware that what we think of as the present is simply a remnant of a reality that has already passed us by? Finding meaning in a world without time. Imagine a world where time doesn't exist, where the concept of minutes, hours, and even years is irrelevant. What would it mean to live without the ticking of a clock, without the pressure of deadlines, or the constant awareness of time slipping away? This scenario, though hypothetical, challenges the very foundation of how we understand existence. If time were to disappear, would meaning still remain? Or would we be left adrift, struggling to find purpose in a timeless void? To explore this question, we must first ask ourselves, why do we attach meaning to time in the first place? Time provides structure to our lives. It gives us milestones to measure progress, deadlines to motivate us, and a sense of the passage of life. Without time, there would be no past to reflect on, no future to anticipate, and no present to occupy. In many ways, time is the thread that weaves our experiences together. It allows us to create narratives about who we are, where we've been, and where we're going. But what if we let go of time, even for a moment? What if we embraced a life where the pressure to achieve, to meet expectations, and to race against the clock was no longer a factor? Would we find ourselves liberated, or would we feel lost in the absence of this structure? Some philosophers have argued that without time, the concept of meaning itself would collapse. Without a beginning or an end, life would become an endless void, devoid of purpose or direction. Though, however, others suggest that meaning might emerge from something beyond the confines of time. In a world without time, we could focus on the experience of the present moment, immersing ourselves in each individual breath, thought, or action. Without the pressure to conform to time's demands, we might discover a deeper connection to ourselves and the world around us. The absence of time might allow us to appreciate life's simple moments, free from the distractions of rushing forward or dwelling on the past. Think about how we experience moments of flow, those times when we lose track of time entirely, completely absorbed in what we're doing. Whether it's working on a creative project, engaging in deep conversation, or simply enjoying the beauty of nature, these moments remind us that meaning doesn't always have to be tied to the linear progression of time. In these instances, we're not looking ahead or behind, but are fully present in the now. Could it be that in a world without time, we would experience more of these moments, allowing us to find meaning in a more profound, authentic way? Yet, there's a paradox here. While time may be a construct that we've invented to help make sense of our lives, it also serves as a catalyst for meaning. The passage of time is what makes experiences feel significant. It's the very fact that our time is finite that gives weight to our choices, relationships, and actions. Without time, would anything truly matter? Or would the idea of meaning become irrelevant, as all moments would blend together into one continuous, timeless existence? If you find this idea intriguing, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We'll be diving deeper into these philosophical questions in upcoming videos. Let's explore the mysteries of time and existence together.